I never imagined that one day I'd be sitting in my car at midnight, outside my sister's apartment, trying to calm my heartbeat while my whole life sat in the trunk. One suitcase, one laptop bag, one tote with everything I could shove in there before slamming the front door of the house I once called home. A home that became a prison, one where my silence was the only key to survival. If someone had told me 3 years ago that my marriage would end because of a bowl of soup I didn't cook, I would have laughed. That's not how love ends. Supposed to be infidelity, violence, betrayal, something dramatic. Not a stupid pot of food. But love, I've learned, doesn't always die with thunder. Sometimes it bleeds out slowly, from paper cuts you pretended not to feel. I met Jaden at a finance summit in Dallas. He wore a navy suit like he was born in it, tailored, sharp, commanding. His smile was warm, but it was the way he listened that hooked me. He didn't just wait for his turn to speak. He paid attention. His follow-ups, took notes like my thoughts mattered. I wasn't used to that. Most men saw my ambition and grew intimidated. Jaden admired it, or at least he pretended to. We started dating quickly. He brought flowers on Tuesdays just because. He remembered my dog's birthday. He bought me books he thought I'd love and wrote little notes on the inside cover. He said he loved my independence. Said it made me powerful. 16 months later we were married. The wedding was perfect. My mom cried. His dad made a speech that had the whole room laughing. But his mother, she barely smiled. She sat in a pale blue lace dress, regal and stern, like a queen attending the coronation of a rival. She didn't speak to me the entire day. I chalked it up to nerves, to tradition, to culture differences. I figured she'd warm up eventually. I was wrong. When Mama moved in, it was supposed to be for a few months after her stroke. She needed care, Jaden said. And we had the space. I agreed reluctantly. I knew it'd be an adjustment. I just didn't realize I was the one who'd be expected to do all the adjusting. From the beginning she had rules. Not spoken, no, that would be too easy. Her disapproval came in cold shoulders, dramatic sighs, long stares. She criticized my cooking in front of guests, rearranged my kitchen cabinets when I wasn't looking, told Jaden that I was too American and not built for a real home. Still I tried. I learned to make her favorite meals from scratch. I helped her with her doctor's appointments, bought her new slippers, a heating pad, silk headscarves she never acknowledged. I came home early from work just to make sure she took her pills on time. But it was never enough. The turning point came on a Sunday. I had just finished a grueling work week. 5 presentations, 3 sleepless nights, and one boss who decided I wasn't assertive enough. I was exhausted. That morning I made pancakes and eggs for Jaden and me. Mama was still asleep, or at least pretending to be. When she came downstairs around noon, she looked at the dishes in the sink, then back at me. "You didn't cook for me?" she asked slowly, like I had spit on her shoes. "I didn't know you were up," I replied calmly. "But Anita can make you something. Or I can fix something up now if you want." She scoffed. "In our tradition, a daughter-in-law doesn't wait for her mother-in-law to ask. She just cooks. You were raised without manners." Froze. Anita, the part-time housekeeper, offered to make her soup. She refused, said she wasn't hungry. But an hour later, she was on the phone with Jaden's aunt, speaking in Yoruba, her voice loud and dramatic. By the time Jaden got home, she had tears in her eyes. "She didn't feed me," Mama said softly. "I was in bed weak. I almost fainted. But she made food just for herself and left me to suffer." I looked at her, stunned. "That's not what happened." Jaden turned to me. "Did you cook for her or not?" My eyes widened. "Jaden, I cooked for us. I didn't know she was even." He cut me off. "It's not a hard question, Olivia. Did you or did you not cook for my mother?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I stared at him and whispered, "No. But I." He raised his hand. That's all I needed to hear. The silence after that was louder than any argument. He didn't sleep in our bed that night. Over the next few days, things deteriorated. Mama refused to eat anything I touched. Jaden stopped speaking to me unless it was about bills or groceries. The house felt colder, the air heavier. And then came the family meeting. His uncles, his aunties, people I'd only met once or twice. All sitting in my living room, discussing my behavior. No one asked for my version. They just repeated what Mama said, nodding like her word was gospel. "She's proud," one uncle said. "She doesn't respect our culture," another added. "This marriage will not last if she cannot humble herself," his aunt concluded. Jaden said nothing. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up, trembling. "I've done everything I could to make this home work. I've sacrificed. I've compromised. I've disrespected myself just to keep the peace. And it's still not enough. So what exactly do you want from me?" His mother stood slowly. "We want a wife. Not a roommate. Not a feminist. A wife." That night, Jaden handed me a list. A literal list. Of expectations. 1. Wake up before Mama every day to cook breakfast. 2. Do not challenge her in front of others. 3. Let her rearrange the house if she wants. 4. Stop working so late. 5. Apologize to her properly. I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Are you serious?" he asked. "Is this how you want to save our marriage?" He looked at me with those same warm eyes that once promised me the world. "This is what it takes." I folded the paper in half and dropped it on the table. Then maybe the marriage isn't worth saving. The next morning, Mama told him I'd insulted her again. I hadn't even spoken to her. I'd gone out for a walk. When I came back, my suitcase was on the porch. The drive away from that house felt like a dream I was waking up from, except I wasn't waking up. I was breaking apart. Every light I passed, every mile I put between myself and that front porch, made it clearer. My husband had chosen a war against my spirit, and I was the casualty he stepped over to protect his mother's pride. I ended up in front of my sister's apartment an hour later, unsure whether I had even signaled properly during the drive. My hands were shaking as I dialed her number. She opened the door without a word and pulled me in. No questions asked, no judgment on her face. Just arms that felt like home. She wrapped me in her oversized sweater, the kind with sleeves too long and warmth too deep, and I collapsed. I didn't speak much that night. I couldn't. Every word felt like it would come with a sob, and I didn't want to fall apart any more than I already had. But Angela, she just held space for me, made me tea, let me sit in her silence. She gave me the one thing I'd been denied in my own home, grace. For the first few days I felt like a ghost. I floated around her small apartment in oversized pajamas, barely eating, barely existing. My phone vibrated constantly. Texts from mutual friends, from nosy relatives, even from two of Jaden's cousins who didn't want to pick sides but hoped I was okay. I didn't reply. Not once. I kept staring at my phone, thinking Jaden would call. Not to grovel. Not even to apologize. Just to be human. To acknowledge that he'd allowed his silence to throw me into the fire. But he didn't call. He sent one text 4 days later, as if it was a checklist item. Take all the time you need. As if I was on vacation. As if I had simply needed a break from cooking, cleaning, and being scrutinized under his mother's hawk-like stare. That message did something to me. It was the moment I realized that I could burn to ashes and he wouldn't even blink. Angela made me leave the house one afternoon, dragged me to a little open-air cafe around the corner. "You need air," she said. "And protein. You haven't eaten anything but cereal and tears." I managed to laugh. It was the first time in days. And she smiled like she'd just won a prize. We sat there sipping overpriced smoothies, and for the first time I told her everything. From the way Lorraine would inspect my food like it was a failed science project, to the night Jaden handed me that awful list of wife duties, to the final moment I saw my suitcase at the door. Angela didn't say much. Just nodded, let me get it all out. And then she said, "You didn't fail. They failed you. All of them. And Jaden. He doesn't know what kind of woman he just lost." Cried into my smoothie. But they were healing tears. The legal notice came 2 weeks later. I wasn't shocked. I knew Jaden would choose the path of least resistance, the path where he didn't have to confront his complicity. But something about seeing it on paper, irreconcilable differences, made it feel so official. Like my love had been filed away in some cabinet to gather dust with other broken marriages. Angela didn't say anything when she handed it to me. She just left a lighter on the table beside it. I knew what she meant. That night, we burned the damn thing in a metal mixing bowl on her tiny balcony. Flames licked at the paper until it curled into ash. That's when I started therapy. I sat across from Dr. Whitman, a gentle woman in her 50s with salt and pepper braids and the softest voice I'd ever heard. "Why are you here today?" she asked, pen in hand. "I don't know who I am anymore," I said. And that was the most honest thing I had said in months. In those sessions, I peeled back layers I didn't know were there. I talked about growing up with a mom who taught me to be self-sufficient but never to accept mistreatment. I talked about how Jaden had mirrored my values in the beginning and then slowly chipped away at them under the guise of family. I talked about Lorraine's contempt, about the manipulation, the passive aggression, the alienation. "Abuse isn't always physical," Dr. Whitman said once. "Sometimes it's in the silence. In the things left unsaid. In the expectations that erode your spirit." I cried when she said that. Not because it hurt, but because it felt like truth finally had a name. By month 3, I was starting to come back to myself. I bought a journal and began writing every morning. I filled page after page with grief, anger, questions. But slowly I began to write other things too. Goals, affirmations, little bits of poetry. I joined a book club. I signed up for a pottery class. I even helped Angela paint her kitchen yellow. And then one day, as I was flipping through Facebook, I saw a post. It was Lorraine, in a white lace blouse, standing at a church fundraiser. The caption read, "Be careful who you welcome into your home. Not every woman brings peace." Thank God for revelation. I stared at the screen, stunned. Hundreds of likes. Dozens of comments praising her wisdom. She had turned me into a parable. Blocked her. But her words lingered in my chest like smoke. That night I wrote a letter. Not to Lorraine. Not to Jaden. But to the woman I used to be. I wrote, "You gave your all. You loved fully. You sacrificed. And they tried to make you feel like that wasn't enough. But you are not the problem. You are not too loud, too ambitious, too strong. You are whole. You are worthy. And you will rise again." I folded it up and tucked it inside my journal. And I slept without crying for the first time in weeks. But life wasn't done testing me. A week later, Jaden called. I didn't recognize the number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. "Hey, it's me, Jaden. Mom's in the hospital. Blood pressure spiked. She's asking for you. Says she misses your cooking. And your tea. I thought you'd want to know." I stared at my phone, heart thudding. It wasn't that I wanted her to be unwell. Despite everything, I didn't wish her harm. But hearing my name roll off his tongue again, after all this time, after all that silence, felt like being dragged back to the scene of a crime. An hour later he called again. Answered. "Camille," he said, soft. I didn't know who else to call. "You could have called a caterer," I replied. "She wants to see you." Pause. "And what do you want, Jaden?" He sighed. "I don't know. I just miss you. I miss us." I let that hang in the air. "You miss control," I said. "You miss silence. You miss having a woman in the house who bent over backwards so you didn't have to stand up to your mother. You don't miss me. You miss convenience." He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize either. And that told me everything I needed to know. "I hope she recovers," I said. "But I'm not coming back. Ever." He didn't call again. That night I made tea. Jasmine with honey. I curled up on Angela's couch, journal in hand, and wrote the words that would become the next chapter of my life. I am not broken. I was never broken. I was just too whole for a house that only accepted fragments. They say time heals all wounds, but I've come to believe that it's not time alone. It's what you do with that time. Time only offers the silence. Healing is what you fight for inside that silence. It had been 8 months since I left Jaden. 8 months since I packed my life into a suitcase and walked out of a house that was never really mine to begin with. And in those 8 months, something quietly, steadily began to return to me, myself. I moved into a modest apartment on the east side of Atlanta. The floors creaked and the plumbing was temperamental, but it was mine. No one rearranged my furniture. No one criticized the scent of my candles. No one made passive comments if I ordered takeout instead of cooking from scratch. It was quiet, but not the kind of quiet that feels like punishment. It was the quiet of peace. I got back into journaling. What began as pages of pain slowly turned into paragraphs of possibility. I took long walks at dusk. I bought myself flowers every Friday. I learned to cook just for myself, not because someone expected it but because I wanted to. Painted my walls. I danced to old soul records in my pajamas. I smiled more, and the smile wasn't fake. Then, one afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message on Instagram. It was from a woman named Lydia. "Hi. I hope this isn't too weird, but I think I'm dating your ex-husband. I just have questions. I'm sorry to bother you." My stomach dropped. My hands froze over the screen. At first, I considered deleting the message, ignoring it, blocking her. But something, maybe the ghost of the woman I used to be, told me to respond. I typed, "Hi Lydia. I'm listening." What she told me unraveled me all over again. Jaden had told her I couldn't adapt. That our marriage failed because I was too independent, too American. That I didn't respect his mother. He had painted me as the rebel, the difficult one. Meanwhile, his mother had moved in with them 2 months into their relationship. Lydia said she wasn't allowed to change the living room curtains without Lorraine's approval. She was already being called disrespectful for not waking up early on weekends. And the food. Lorraine told her she cooked like a tourist. Lydia's voice in those messages reminded me of me. Unsure. Exhausted. Walking on eggshells trying to be enough. I didn't send her a novel. I didn't rant. I just wrote, "You are not crazy. It's not just you. And it won't get better until you choose you. Thank me." Said it was all she needed to hear. 2 weeks later she sent a message. "I left. I'm gone. Thank you for helping me see myself." I cried that night, not because I was sad, but because I finally understood why I had gone through what I did. My pain had become someone else's flashlight. My voice had become a life raft. That moment birthed something in me. I started a blog called The Uncooked Wife. It began as a space to tell my story, but it quickly became so much more. Other women began to send messages, stories, wounds, triumphs. Women from all over the country. Some married to traditional families, some raised in toxic homes, some freshly divorced, others still stuck in it. I was overwhelmed by how many of us had been punished for choosing peace over performance. The blog exploded. I began writing essays, publishing excerpts from anonymous stories, organizing healing circles in coffee shops. I got invited to speak at women's events, to lead workshops, to sit on panels. My blog was featured in a digital magazine. I started a newsletter. I published an ebook titled Burn the Apron, a survival guide for women who refuse to shrink. It hit 10,000 downloads in less than 2 months. For the first time in my life, my voice wasn't just heard, it mattered. And then, one quiet morning I got an email. From Jaden. Subject: "I saw your blog." It was short. I read it all. "I didn't realize how much I hurt you. I don't expect a response. I just wanted to say, I see it now." I stared at the screen for a long time. I read it twice. Then I closed it. I didn't reply. Not because I was bitter, but because I didn't need to anymore. Healing had made his apology unnecessary. He was no longer my closure. It was. Now, when I wake up in the morning, I stretch in my bed and smile at the sun pouring through my windows. I sip my tea with both hands and savor the quiet. I no longer feel like I have to perform to be loved. I no longer explain my piece to anyone. I am not the woman who was thrown out. I am the woman who walked away. And every time I tell my story, I take another brick from the wall that tried to cage me, and I build something beautiful with it instead. I don't know what Jaden's life looks like now. I don't care. Lorraine may still be the queen of his home, but I've built my own kingdom, where no woman is ever made to beg for her place. Where food is a choice, not a sentence. Where peace is the culture. Where love does not cost your voice. To any woman who has and is going through this now, brace up. There's nothing wrong with you. Keep being the queen that you are.